Morning, everybody. I am an associate member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA. All of my trades are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. And there is the position disclosure, so you know when I'm talking my own book. All right. I still have the pre-market charts up here. You can see we're looking pretty good until that news just hit on Prime Minister Truss resigning. Working our way up here pretty much all morning, kind of getting above this 370, pulling back but making a higher low, and then really getting above 370. I actually thought we were starting to look really good here at about 8:20 this morning. We broke out on a nice looking Maribozu candle on this pre-market 5-minute chart, getting above 370. Technically it is a common, or at that point it was a common gap to the upside, but it wasn't massive. So I thought maybe we could get a little bit of backing and filling, but I thought that this was setting us up for actually a pretty bullish day on the market until that news hit. Let me go back to that in a second, talk about the daily chart. What I said in yesterday's afternoon meeting is that what I really want as a bull is for yesterday to kind of be the lower high where, we traded below that 367.50 to 368 support area that we've been talking about, but we closed back above it, and it's given a little bit of a doji day. And then, whatever, we had a bunch of earnings reports last night and this morning. Tesla's obviously trading lower, but there's a bunch of other reports that are looking good. Market's working its way back above 370, then pre-market, and I'm like, oh boy, this is looking good as potential confirmation that this could be a lower high if we're holding above 370 and we can start working our way back up and hold that 370 and get some sort of continuation. So that's what I was thinking. And then, the news hits and it just kind of sinks the market back down, which I'm surprised about. But the market's always smarter than me. My thought process is that the prime minister over there has created so much economic uncertainty over there with the policies that she's discussed implementing as soon as kind of getting involved in office. Those policies forced the Central Bank of England, whatever they call that, to have to actually come in and intervene in the bond market at a time when inflation is super high and everybody else kind of needs to be tightening. They were forced to do an emergency bond buying program. That's the turmoil that she created. She crushed the British pound, really weakened it out. And on top of that, I thought it was kind of well known, which therefore means it should be priced into the market, that there's a good chance that she's going to resign. So I'm actually surprised by the reaction to the downside. But again, the market knows better than me. So for now, that pre-market price action that I was kind of just discussing, where we're getting above 370 here and looking pretty good, is not only out the window, but we're now kind of retesting that key support level that we lost yesterday but closed above. So I still think that 367.50 to 368 is important. I really think that yesterday's low now is important because I want yesterday's low to be a pivot point that leads to a lower high for the market for bulls. If we lose that, then that's potentially out the window. And then getting and holding above 375 is going to be important. And what I always talk about whenever there's a pre-market news event, like an economic number, like a CPI, or like what just happened, is the opposite side of the news event is always going to be really important. Wherever we started, if you can negate that, in this case it's a downside move, sometimes it's an upside move, negating that's always going to be really important to the marketplace. So we basically started at about, when that news broke, we were trading at about 370 quarter. So if you recapture 370 quarter, then the market's information is, hey, not only do we not care about the prime minister stepping down, but we actually might think it's a good thing. While we're below that 370 quarter, the market's interpreting that as bad. So 370 to 370 quarter, 370 was already important. 370 to 370 quarter is going to be really important here on the upside. We know our downside levels. While we're now with this, I was more excited when we were up here. Now with where we're opening, we're at this support area, but it's very similar to me to yesterday now, where it's like yeah, we're above support, so I'd rather be long than short. But I feel like I need to be very cautious about it without confirmation from the market. The one thing that is encouraging, and I'm seeing right now if that changed, is the pre-market relative strength from the IWM. So, we discussed this a lot yesterday. The IWM has just been so important this year at the Russell, and the Russell's weakness yesterday was the signal that you could not be super bullish yesterday. It was the signal very early on before we even kind of broke down, and the IWM short or TZA long at noon was one of the better trades that we called out yesterday. This morning was a bit of the opposite, and it's still that way for now, but let's see what it looks like after the market opens. SPYs are right now down about 0.2%. Qs are relatively weak. They're down 0.4%. Obviously, you've got Tesla in there, and the IWM. Yeah, the IWM's not that much stronger anymore. It's slightly stronger than the SPYs and a little bit stronger than the Qs. I really want to see this IWM showing relative strength. It was pre-market earlier today, and I feel like it's lost a little bit of that this morning. The other thing I wanted to point out, so I was typing it into the chat. I really hope everyone reads Pat's note every day, because it's just a great way to learn about how markets work. It's really phenomenal piece of information. It's like maybe like the best newsletter I've seen in some ways, just because it aggregates a lot of really important stuff every day. So the beginning of Pat's note today was a lot about how bonds affect the market, all in this. So I know people have been asking in the VTF, like, Pat, why do you post this option flow all the time? Like, what does it mean? This is just a great, kind of overview on why that option flow is so important. The other thing that I wanted to point out from Pat's note in particular was this chart, the vol control implied rebalancing. This is another thing that we pay attention to insofar as market dynamics go. And we'll see if vol does drop off or not. I know we've got a lot of events coming up as well, but basically what this talks about here is volatility, which has been so high. As that begins to drop off, it basically creates an underlying bid to the market, because you've got a lot of like algorithmic models that are out there that are designed to have more exposure to the market as volatility goes down, and those models basically view volatility as risk. So as volatility goes down, the model views risk as going down. So we call it like this vol control universe of all these funds that are out there that start to add systematic buying, systematic flows into the market. So that's one of the big things that we also want to pay attention to. Though obviously volatility this year has just been massive. Why has volatility been massive? Well, read back to the beginning portion of Pat's note here, where it's talking about the option flows in dealer and gamma. So wanted to bring that chart up. So just going back to the daily charts here real quick before I dive into any individual stocks. We know our levels. I don't like that we lost that 370, and I don't like that the market is reacting negatively to that news. But while we are above 367.50 and yesterday's low in the SPYs, I'm still going to be looking to lean cautiously, albeit to the long side. And then if we can really begin to recapture that 370 quarter, which is where the market was trading when the news came out, that would be a further signal to me that this market could see a lot more upside. So again, starting the day cautiously bullish. If we get more confirmation, then that cautious bullishness could become a little bit more aggressive bullishness. Going over to individual stocks that are on the list today. So, again, the earnings season is starting to heat up a little bit, which is exciting. It's going to be even bigger over the course of the next couple of weeks, but we're starting to see some reports come out. So first of all, obviously Tesla. Tesla all over the place after hours yesterday, all over the place this morning. The key post-market and pre-market earnings levels from Tesla that I've seen here are 207 and 217. 207 seems like it's acted as support after hours yesterday, pre-market this morning, and I think even on this recent dip it held 207 again. So 207 is some support in Tesla, and 217 is some resistance. I think that this Tesla is going to be tricky to trade today. I think it's going to be a little bit sloppy. I didn't think the numbers were that fantastic, but Musk is also doing a lot of grandstanding about a buyback, and Tesla's going to be worth more than Apple and Saudi Aramco combined. I don't know. I didn't think the numbers were good, but I didn't think that they were like atrocious either. So I think that Tesla's going to be sloppy and probably difficult to trade. But the initial key levels that I would pay attention to are 207 and 217 for Tesla. American Airlines, another airline here that posted, it's trading down now, posted a really solid earnings report. I don't know how much of that solid earnings report is priced in, because I think that they guided at some point recently, or was it Delta, and said that basically like expect the earnings report to be good. It might have been Delta. I actually don't remember. I thought that the American Airlines report was good, and therefore this is one that's just worth watching. It's a little bit extended because the airlines have traded so well recently. You know, trading up at $14, the ADMA at $13.36. It's a cheap stock. It's a decent amount of extension. But I think that if this American Airlines on the report is starting to clear above like 14 quarter, like yesterday's high, you could be looking for momentum earnings trades to the long side in that. Another solid earnings report is this IBM. This IBM might be getting away from us here a little bit. I was thinking 126 is a spot that you could look to be long versus. 126 is a little bit of a level going back to October 5th. And it also was a bit of a level after hours. Sorry, where's my chart? Where's my pre-market chart? It was also a little bit of a level after hours yesterday when they reported. A little bit sloppy, but you can see that this 126 held as a pivot. They overshot it real quick, came back up. This 126 was holding. So IBM report looks solid. New CEO over there, I think, is really doing some good stuff. And 126, I think, is the level to pay attention to for IBM. Another airline that reported earnings is this ALK. This report wasn't as good as American, but 43 is a huge level. So if for some reason they're buying this thing up, it's probably worth it to have an alert in front of 43, 42.80, something like that, to see what this thing is looking like as it approaches this very clear horizontal resistance at $43. And then the only other earnings name I had on the list was Philip Morris. Actually, that's not true. I got two more on my list. Philip Morris reported not having a big reaction here pre-market. So, you know, again, your general rule when you're trading earnings names is to trade them in the direction in which they're moving. As much as I tend to not love counter trend trades to begin with, I particularly find them difficult in earnings names because there's so much institutional flow that's moving those things. I really find that there's bigger money to be made when you're trading in the direction of the stock. So it goes back to like ALK. Like if ALK is trading up through 43, then fine, let's go for it. If it's weak and it's sloppy or it never gets up there, then you probably don't end up trading it, and that's fine. Philip Morris here, I think if it can really start to clear like this $87 or $87.10 or 15 cents, I should say, yesterday's high, and you're can trade it in the direction in which it's moving to the upside. This is a report that I thought was just okay, and it's trading flattish, so the market seems to be confirming that for the moment. But if buyers are coming into Philip Morris and this thing's getting above 87.15, I think you could look through a trade through that level. And then, this AT&T actually started to get away from me. AT&T, this is a stock that I tend to basically never trade. I think that this, for a lot of people, is more of like a stock that you invest in for its dividend, even though that certainly hasn't worked out very well for you this year if this is in your retirement account for a dividend. But this AT&T descending channel broke that it's been in. And on top of that, it reported an earnings report that looked pretty decent to me. So I was going to say you could look to be long AT&T versus 15.75. That's when it was trading at 16, so the risk there of 25 cents I really liked. It's up another 15 cents above that, so now it's 40 cents risk. maybe not terrible versus that area. I would prefer to get stock at 16, but I think that this AT&T, even though it's a name that I typically never trade, is one that you can keep an eye on. Stocks that got upgraded. Oracle got upgraded. This is another stock I usually don't trade very much, just because I find that it's not a great mover. But Oracle got upgraded, and back when I was, thinking that the market was certainly going to be on my side and we were trading above 370, I was like, all right, like if the market's on my side and Oracle got upgraded, this could be a name that can really give some relative strength. So that's why I kind of have it on my list. I don't have a specific upside target entry for it. I think broadly, you want to be long versus yesterday's low on a big picture. But you could probably be looking at the break of this like 67.15 or so as an entry point for Oracle if the market's cooperating and it's got relative strength off the upgrade. LRCX, a little expensive for me. I don't like them super expensive like this. We've discussed why. But if anybody does look at stocks that are a little bit more expensive, a little bit more spready, LRCX got an upgrade as well. And I think that upgrade could clear this bearish pattern to the upside, which could lift this thing off up to the 21 EMA. So you might be able to find a pretty good risk reward on LRCX as a breakout through or versus like 332.20 on that upgrade to then see if you can be getting a move into the mid 350s on it. Could give you a pretty good risk reward. Maybe not in a single day, but today or like a 2 to 3 day trade. I think if this thing really breaks up, a snapback to the mid 350s is really very reasonable for LRCX. So those are the names that are in play that are on my list. What else do we got? Energy. A lot of chatter in the VTF about energy this morning. Again, ideally, and this is what I was saying in yesterday's afternoon meeting, we discussed being long energy yesterday morning. Ideally, you're already long energy stocks from yesterday morning, and this gap up is just paying you even further. That's what you want. I always want to be very cautious on chasing day twos. It doesn't mean that the stock can't go. It doesn't mean that there can't be some decent trades in the energy names today. Just be a little bit careful kind of chasing your day twos. TG in the VTF gave us a few names that he's kind of looking at that maybe haven't gotten too far away yet, like this DVN through $73, and he was kind of mentioned that there's like a little bit of a cup and handle pattern here on the daily chart, but the $73 area in DVN could be a spot that you pay attention to. It's set to open up pretty much right at it. PXD with a similar pattern through 255. This one's a little bit too expensive for me, so I probably wouldn't be involved in it. I like DVN better. Hess has a level at 130. This is another name that I actually don't love trading compared to some of the other ones that we were looking at yesterday. And what was the other one? PSX. PSX was the other one that you brought up. Yeah, this PSX might be getting away from me a little bit. PSX, I think you want to be long versus 98, so make sure that risk reward makes sense. And that's still a momentum trade because of where the ADMA is. So my favorite of those four is probably DVN. And then somebody else on the VTF, I apologize, I forget who, brought up MRO. 2850 I think is a level here for MRO, but same thing, just be a little bit cautious chasing these day twos. It's gapping up above 2850. You could try to go long versus 2850 for momentum, but I always feel like you inherently have a worse risk reward and lower probability of success by trying to be involved in a day two as opposed to just being in these things for day one and looking for continuation. And then I saw that Elliott was chattering about LAC. This had there was some broad news on lithium yesterday that I remembered that Pat posted, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was something related to the current administration's policies. But I think that this LAC, if it's showing strength, you could try to look to be long versus $24. That's like some of the chatter in the VTF and specifically energy stocks that we were looking at, though I guess LAC is a little bit different. FANG names, Apple with an inside day yesterday. 145 is really important on the upside. When the Apple bad news came out 2 days ago, it sold off from 145 quarter. So 145 to 145 quarter is really a key spot in Apple. It held that as resistance yesterday. So Apple above 145. If Apple's getting above 145, your market's probably cooperating as well, and it's a really key level that you can pay attention to. If you want, because the market is still above those support levels where we're a little cautiously optimistic as opposed to aggressively optimistic, you could try to start to build an Apple ahead of time versus yesterday's low if it looks right to you. So it's Apple. Microsoft has kind of been a little bit of a leader. Microsoft we've spoken about, even though it was sloppy, 235. I think 235 is still in play that you can be watching. Amazon 114 to 115 has been important. It's stuck right in the middle of that right now. You might have a trade, again, if the market's cooperating back through 115 in Amazon. Yeah, we have Snap earnings after the close. That's probably going to be moving Meta and Pins, so just keep that in mind. I think that the Pins daily chart's gotten pretty sloppy here. Snap, I think 11 is still pretty important, but we don't have much time for that trade anymore because of earnings. And Meta was very relatively strong yesterday and had an inside day, so you can probably keep that one on your list as well. And then Netflix, I think Netflix gapped up so big yesterday that at this point I wanted to kind of reset up. So those are our FANG names, our energy stocks, and I'm just going to leave it at that on my end and turn it over to you guys, and I'll try to get through as many names as I possibly can before the... Can you guys still hear me? What happened? Oh, good. On my end, my VTF froze for a minute. I'm really glad you guys didn't lose me, because that would have stunk if I said all that and no one heard me. All right, so let me look here in the VTF. Yeah, so Bill providing that chart again, worth taking a look at, and because it seems like it's been pretty accurate. It's been sticky to the downside and slippery to the upside. If we can get a catalyst to the upside, I mean, we could really start rocking and rolling. But it seems like every time we start, there's been something in the way. Josh is the first one I'm seeing here. Josh is looking at Roblox long. I think Roblox looks great versus 40 if you can give it that much room. With that said, I tend to not like to buy dips in these kinds of stocks versus lower levels. These are the types of names that I usually like to buy high in order to sell higher as the momentum is coming in and they're squeezing up. So I think that this Roblox looks good. I think 40 is important. I love that the ADMA caught up to 40. That could be a signal that this thing could begin to go. But you got to see if growth can give any relative strength, because growth was atrocious yesterday. Roblox maybe held up better. There were a couple others that held up better, but broadly, growth stocks were like really, really bad yesterday. Tesla we spoke about already, 207 and 217. XLE short, I really don't like that. Maybe there's an extension trade there to the short side that you could be looking at, but I have zero interest in shorting the strongest sector that's in the marketplace when it's only a day 2. If it's a day 3 or a day 4 and it's super extended, then we can maybe be a little bit more aggressive looking for that. But I'm not a fan of that one. NVIDIA inside day. Glad you brought this one up. Very notable. Semis are leaders. And NVIDIA, from what I saw, has kind of been the strongest of the semis like recently. So that makes this, I think, my favorite right now. I'm already involved in it. 125 has kind of become a level for this thing. 123.50 is yesterday's high. That's the inside day high. If you're clearing that 123.50, that could be the signal that you're clearing the 21 EMA and you're clearing 125, and then you're working your way up into the low 130s on NVIDIA. That's going to be with market cooperation. You want to see NVIDIA leading the market up. So really like the NVIDIA call from Josh. Hess we spoke about already. Tesla we spoke about already. Chinggis bringing up. Yeah, XLF looks actually pretty decent here versus 3150. I think you can look at XLF versus 3150. DVN we spoke about, MRR we spoke about, Tala we did not. I think Tala got upgraded or something this morning. I looked at this one off of that. I've traded this name a bunch in the past. I like it when it's holding above 20, but it's been very sloppy. But with the upgrade, if it's above 20, I think you could be looking at it. LBRT from Matt's getting it crushed earnings after a strong day yesterday. Yeah, this LBRT, this is a day 3 on it though. On earnings, it might not matter that it's extended. It might be able to continue, but it's so extended that this makes me nervous to buy. But let's see what happens with it. Jerry bringing up AAL, which we spoke about. Oh, and AA, which I did not speak about. They wrecked this AA. 33.50 is a support level. Looks like it held it again this morning. It's bounced pretty much a lot off of it. I'm probably not going to this one. 38 and then 33.50 I think are pretty important. Sunrun got a downgrade. This is another one. I looked at this morning. I'm staying away from it. It's like day 5 to the downside. I know that they're wrecking this thing, but it's like day 5 to the downside into a broader support area on a downgrade. I almost would be interested in looking at it, for a counter trend bounce back because it's so many days in a row to the downside and it's extended. But I'm not fighting a downgrade in a stock that I don't really necessarily like or believe in. Silver saying AT&T had solid earnings. I agree. AT&T's on my list. Josh saying COP is another energy one that we could pay attention to. Yeah, super bullish chart. Again, day 2 gap up, so just be a little bit cautious on that. BRT crushed it, huh? Yeah, they crushed it. Adobe. So I really don't like trading Adobe. It's very expensive and very thin. The earnings report I thought was okay. The stock traded well on it. I think that like this 300 is really key, but it's a range because the name's so expensive. 300 to like 305 is really the range. But you could look at this thing through 300 if it's acting right. Ryan on TTWO and Uber. I'm almost out of time. Usually when it's just the normal gang here, I can get through just about everything, but with the added guests and everything going on, it's tough. This TTWO chart I think is sloppy. You're just going back into a really big price congestion range, so I'm not sure that is the one I would go to unless there's some sort of news I'm missing on it. And Uber is also in a little bit of a sloppy area, but I kind of like this smaller term chart here for upside continuation, and I like some of the improvement that Uber's doing, and I really love that this was able to fully fill this gap on, I think that was their earnings report or bad news or something, whatever. That was when the news came out on their workers, I think, that they sold this down on that volume. I love that they were able to negate that. So Uber potentially above yesterday's high if these types of stocks are strong, and I'm really out of time, guys. I'm really out of time. So I apologize if I didn't get to anybody's name this morning. Good luck. Trade smart. Manage your risk. It's the key to the business. Understand your key market levels. Know where we want to be, optimistic but not super aggressive versus where we want to be getting more aggressive and where we need to take a big step back on everything. So good luck. Trade smart. Manage your risk. I'll be right back.